greatest story never told, and my small part. On the 14th of March 1981, a detachment of the Special Air Service moved into position around a farmhouse near Rosley. The location had been under observation for some time by 13 Troop COP. Inside were Seamus McIlwain and 3 other members of the Provisional IRA. They were armed, 4 rifles, including an Armalite. But when the SAS made clear what would happen next, generously offering the choice of grenades being thrown into the building, the men inside chose to surrender. No firefight, no last stand. They were taken alive. McIlwain was not just another prisoner. Even as a young man, he had already become a significant target for the British military because of his activity. By the age of 19, he was officer commanding of the IRA in County Fermanagh. Just 19. On the 5th of February 1980, he killed an off-duty Ulster Defence Regiment Corporal, Aubrey Abercrombie, as he drove a tractor near Florence Court. Later that same year, on the 23rd of September, he killed an off-duty Royal Ulster Constabulary Reserve Constable, Ernest Johnston, outside his home in Rosley. And those were not isolated incidents. McIlwain was suspected of involvement in at least 10 other killings, many of them what the army referred to as soft targets. That term had a specific meaning. It referred to individuals who were not in a position to defend themselves effectively, people alone, off-duty, or unarmed, men at home, men without weapons in their hands, support personnel, not frontline troops, very different from facing a group of lethal Toms ready to fight back. Because of this, McIlwain was sent to the Maze prison, also known as Long Kesh, near Lisbon, about 9 miles from Belfast. It was a maximum security facility, considered one of the most escape-proof prisons in Europe. Separate wings held Loyalist and Republican prisoners. Each H block at the Maze was designed with 100 cells to house 100 prisoners. However, during the peak of the protests, these cells often held 2 inmates each to manage overcrowding. The Maze consisted of 8 such H blocks, H1 to H8, each with concrete walls, steel gates, guards and dogs, tight control. But in September 1983, that reputation was shattered. The Maze became the site of the largest prison escape in British peacetime history, and it did not happen by chance. It was planned, carefully, quietly, with military precision. The escape from the Maze was not spontaneous. It had been building for months. Inside H Block 7, prisoners studied routines, weaknesses, timing. 2 men in particular, Bobby Story and Jerry Kelly, worked as orderlies, giving them access, movement and opportunity. Somehow, 6 handguns were smuggled inside the prison. On the 25th of September 1983, just after 2:30 in the afternoon, the operation began. Prison officers were taken hostage at gunpoint. The aim was simple: total control before any alarm could be raised. 1 officer was stabbed, another was knocked unconscious. When 1 man tried to resist, Jerry Kelly shot him in the head. He survived. By 2:50 p.m., H Block 7 was under prisoner control. No alarm had been raised, uniforms were taken, keys were handed over, cars identified for possible use. A rearguard stayed behind, guarding hostages and delaying discovery. At 3:25 p.m., a food delivery lorry arrived. It was seized immediately. The driver was taken hostage and given strict instructions. He was told exactly what would happen if he didn't cooperate. 37 prisoners climbed into the back. In the cab, Jerry Kelly lay on the floor, gun trained on the driver, who was also told the vehicle had been rigged with a grenade. At nearly 4 p.m., the lorry approached the main gate. This was the critical moment. 10 prisoners, dressed as officers and armed, moved into the gatehouse and took control. At first, it worked, but then resistance began. An alarm was triggered and dismissed as accidental. More officers arrived, walking straight into the ambush, one after another, each taken hostage at gunpoint. 1 officer, James Ferris, broke away and ran toward the pedestrian gate, trying to raise the alarm. He was chased down and stabbed multiple times. He collapsed before he could warn anyone. The situation was now slipping. A soldier in a watchtower saw the struggle and reported it, but confusion, hesitation, and procedure delayed any real response. Inside the gatehouse, control was starting to fracture. At 4:12 p.m, the alarm was finally raised properly. Too late. The prisoners forced open the main gate. But as they prepared to drive out, 2 officers blocked the exit with their cars. The lorry could not pass. The plan broke apart. Prisoners abandoned the vehicle and ran for the outer fence, just 25 yards away. Some hijacked cars, others ran on foot. Shots were fired. 1 officer was wounded in the leg. 1 escapee was shot and captured. Others were caught in the chaos, but most made it. Over the wall and into open ground. By 4:18 p.m, it was over. 35 prisoners had breached the perimeter. It was the largest prison escape in British history, and the largest in Europe since the Second World War. Among them was Seamus McIlwaine. Outside there had been a plan, a support operation, vehicles, armed backup, but a timing error of just minutes meant nothing was there. The escapees scattered, across fields, along roads, hijacking vehicles as they went. Security forces reacted quickly. By 4:25 p.m, checkpoints were already being established. Some prisoners were caught within hours, others within days, but many got away. The cost inside the prison was severe. 20 officers were injured, some beaten, some stabbed, some shot. James Ferris, the officer who had tried to raise the alarm, later died after suffering a heart attack following his injuries. The political fallout was immediate. Ian Paisley called for resignations. Margaret Thatcher described it as the gravest prison breakout in modern British history. An inquiry followed. The findings placed much of the blame on prison staff and systemic failures. Recommendations were made. Changes followed. In the aftermath, many escapees were recaptured. Some fled to strongholds. Some returned to active service. Others disappeared. 1 drowned while evading capture. Others were arrested months or years later. But the story did not end with the escape. The greatest escape ended for Seamus McIlwaine in April 1986, near Rosley. A command wire bomb had been discovered. An ambush was set, quiet, hidden, waiting. In the early hours, McIlwaine and another man approached the device. They were preparing an attack against British troops. The Special Air Service opened fire. Both men were hit. McIlwaine was killed. His companion, Sean Lynch, was wounded and later arrested. Even then, the story did not settle cleanly. An inquest later ruled the killing of McIlwaine unlawful, arguing that he had not been given a chance to surrender. The circumstances remain disputed. Another chapter in a conflict where nothing was ever simple. And then, in a final darker note, in August 1984, a loyalist prisoner, Benjamin Redfern of the Ulster Defence Association, attempted to escape the maze hidden in a refuse lorry. He died when he was caught in the crushing mechanism. That is how it ends, not with victory, not with closure, but with fragments, violence, escape, pursuit, and consequence. The story of Seamus McIlwaine, and the greatest escape that few now remember.